My name is Dana. I'm the editor-in-chief of the teen-led Just Allergy Things magazine. The other team members and I at the Just Allergy Things magazine decided to start our podcast to spread food allergy education to a greater audience. With this podcast, we aim to share our experience with food allergies and give advice, comfort, and support to those who have food allergies or to those who want to learn more about the cause. We also hope to shed light on the invisible impacts of living with food allergies and expose them to the non-allergic population. So, whether you have food allergies or not, we hope that you join us on our journey of spreading food allergy awareness. In this episode, I chat with Arjin and Melody about all things food allergy awareness. Arjin is the founder of the Food Allergy Stories Instagram account, where he gives people with food allergies a platform to have their stories heard. Melody is a staff writer for the Just Allergy Things magazine. In this episode, we discuss the founding of Food Allergy Stories and deep dive into our own experiences with food allergy awareness in our communities and beyond. We also discuss what should be done to make others aware of the severity of food allergies. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, I'm Dana. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Florida.
I'm Melody. I am 17 years old and I am from California.
Hey everyone, my name's Arjin. I'm 17 and I live near Sacramento, California, so right near the capital.
So it's so great to have you guys on the show today. Let's start out with when you guys were diagnosed with food allergies and what your food allergies are.
Sure. So I was diagnosed at a really young age, just a couple months old. Usually I just say I've been diagnosed since birth because I was really only like 2-3 months old. I originally got diagnosed with an allergy to dairy, eggs, tree nuts, peanuts, and sesame seeds. And since then, I've outgrown almonds, sesame, and just recently dairy as well.
Oh, exciting.
But like I said, I got diagnosed at just like 2-3 months old, and it happened is kind of a story. I think it was either frozen yogurt or ice cream. And my mom always says that I was just like sitting on her lap and she gave me just like a little bit on her finger and just like touched it to my lips and I liked it. And then a couple minutes later, she could see my lips start swelling up. And at the time, this was 2003. And so not many people knew about food allergies and the severity of them. And so they didn't really know what to do. So it's a very scary experience for them. I obviously don't remember it, but that's how I got diagnosed.
Melody, how about you?
I was diagnosed at age, I think I was 1.5 years. I have a wide variety of times that I've been diagnosed, but my main allergens that I was diagnosed with at 1.5 years was dairy and egg. My current allergens are dairy, shellfish, mollusks, cephalopods, wheat, gluten, I have celiac disease, beef and pork. And those came on, my shellfish and cephalopod and mollusk allergens came on shellfish at age 7, mollusks at age 10, and cephalopods at age 13. And I was diagnosed with celiac at age 5 after, I think, a couple of years of trying to figure out what was going on with me. When we learned that I had a dairy allergy, I was at my best friend's house and 3 drops of milk just went right onto my foot and it swelled about 3 times the size of what it was when I was a kid. And yeah, that's how we figured out that I had really, really severe dairy allergies.
Yeah. So is there anyone in your families who have food allergies?
I think I have some extended family who I think they're kind of lactose intolerant. So not really an allergy to it, but they avoid dairy in a lot of cases. In my immediate family, I remember my sister, I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me. And my mom always told me that when she was really young, kind of around when I got diagnosed, a couple months old, she was also allergic to dairy, but she outgrew it really, really quickly. So it was never really a kind of an issue for her, and it wasn't a bad allergy either. So she never went through anaphylaxis, anything like that. Then I came along, and I kind of messed everything up.
How about you, Melody?
My mom has really bad allergies to medication. Anaphylaxis to, I don't remember exactly what medication, but she does have anaphylaxis to medication. And my brother I have a younger brother who is 3 years younger than me, and he has oyster allergens, but he's never had anaphylaxis before. My mom has had it once, and as Arjin said, I'm kind of the one that messed everything up in a way.
Yeah. It's funny for me, my dad actually had anaphylaxis to shrimp when he was like a teenager, I think. But that's really one of the only people with food allergies, like no one from my mom's side. My cousin actually has like different food allergies, so that was interesting. But other than that, no one else. So it's kind of surprise to my parents. So, how did having food allergies like impact you guys when you were like younger?
So having food allergies is definitely not an easy thing, and it's kind of a big burden. So when you're younger, you definitely have to rely on your parents quite a bit. And so growing up with food allergies, I think in some ways it helped me mature faster because I had to learn to be able to take care of myself and realize what I can and can't eat at a very young age because there are certain foods that are life threatening to me and I can't go near them at all. And so I think it helped with that. But growing up, it's just not easy. Like there's so much to be scared of and worried about. And it's like eating out, it's almost like always a risk. There's always a chance of cross contamination. And especially me, and I think both of you, we all have common allergens. And so the cross contamination, I guess, percentage, like probability of stuff being cross contaminated is very high with our allergens, even if they're some of the more common allergens.
Definitely. Growing up with so many allergens, um, it's never easy for a young kid. I was bullied for pretty much all of my school time. I've been bullied throughout my entire life, and that made it really hard to understand like how food allergies, they're kind of a normal part of life for a lot of us. Well, of course they are. um, but that was really hard as a kid, kind of never being invited to things, never being um, accepted in a way. Um, and that really affected the way that I look at my allergies now. I really do try and look at them in a positive way now, but growing up, it was really hard having food allergies.
Yeah, definitely. I totally relate to that. Like as a kid, I would always feel like the outsider and like it definitely contributed to like shyness and like kind of even social isolation as a child for sure. Um and recently like I went to like an event and like I didn't want to eat because I didn't feel comfortable and like someone asked me like, "Oh, why don't you eat something?" or like, do you want to eat something?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay. I have food allergies. I can't." But it was really weird because I enjoyed saying it. Like, even if I didn't have food allergies, like, I wasn't hungry. So it was really liberating in a way, just like knowing that even though I have food allergies, like, I'm out of it in a way. Like, when I was younger, like, that would have never happened. But it's definitely progressed differently as I've gotten older.
That's awesome. And I think definitely as you get older, you start to realize like it's especially if you don't outgrow all of your allergens, you just come to terms with the fact that it's just something that you have to live with. You can't control it. You just kind of have to make the most of it. But like Melody, I'm sorry to hear that you got bullied. I didn't get bullied to the extent that you did, but it's definitely like when you have food allergies, you pick up on like the weird looks that you get from people. And I guess I've always been more of like an introverted, shy kid, especially when I was much younger. And so whenever I was like standing in line ordering food with my mom or ordering alone, it's just like I felt like I was holding up the whole line because I had to ensure that they were making my order right. And I had to say, oh, I can't have this, 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 and this. Can you substitute it for X, Y, and Z? And so it's definitely not easy. And I think that the psychological toll that it can have on young kids, especially, is definitely not something that should be ignored because it's pretty impactful.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially growing up in the time that, Arjun, you and I, it's 2003, 2004, it was, and Dana, you as well.
Yeah.
Um,
2005.
there wasn't anywhere near what we have today. And so many kids now are seeing things, and kids now hearing this are no, they know that there are so many people like them, and that's something that all three of us have in common. We are big educators for the kids that don't have the courage to speak out against, not against, speak out for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about being a part of the magazine, and because we get to cover things that I know when I was a kid, I didn't see a lot of.
Yeah, definitely. When we grew up, like there wasn't like the internet was there, but it wasn't nowhere near what it is today. And like there was definitely, if you didn't know anyone like at your school with food allergies, you didn't know anyone with food allergies at all. And
Yeah.
it definitely took a toll on like I'm sure most people with food allergies, just like being like the only one like, does anyone else have this? Like all I see is me. So it's definitely amazing how much like kids now with food allergies can like relate to others and meet others like through the internet. So that's really cool. And that kind of plays into Arjun, what you're doing. So I wanted to ask, what made you want to start Food Allergy Stories?
Of course. So I've been a part of FAIR since I was in, I believe, 8th grade. So it's been 3 or 4 years now. And when I first got started, I was kind of unsure of how things worked. And I learned about the TAG group, Teen Advisory Group. And so I wanted to get involved with that because I really wanted to educate people about food allergies. Because I realized through my own experiences growing up, I was forced to learn a lot about food allergies because I had to know everything about them. But it's crazy to see how many people don't know even just very little about food allergies. And so that was something I wanted to change. And I remember talking to my mom about it. And a while ago, she had sent me an Instagram account. I'm sure you guys know it. It's called Humans of New York. And
Mhm.
so they share stories of, I believe, New Yorkians is the correct term. Um, and I just thought that was so awesome. And it was such a simple way of kind of spreading awareness for something and just showing how amazing some just normal, ordinary people that you walk by on the street really are. And so I was talking to my mom and I was like, why don't we do that for food allergies? It's something that we need more awareness to be brought to. And this is a very simple and effective, while also easy way to do it. And so the kind of driving factor behind it was just wanting to educate people more and more about something I'm passionate about, but doing it in an impactful way. And so sharing the stories of people with food allergies, because if you walk up to anyone with food allergies, 90% of the time, they've had like an anaphylactic experience where they've ended up in the hospital and have had to use an EpiPen. And it's scary. And a lot of people don't realize just how scary it is. And so that was kind of the driving force behind me in wanting to make this, because I wanted to make an impact on people while also educating them about something that is important to me.
That's so amazing. So what would you say the most rewarding thing that's come from creating this account? What would you say that is?
Um, I think the one of the most rewarding things is being able to meet so many incredible people just by reaching out and like talking to them. I've been able to meet hundreds of people who have been able to share their stories with me, or I've just talked to, and learning their stories and realizing, oh yeah, there are other people out there who have gone through a similar experience that I have, and really understand what it's like having food allergies and living with them is extremely rewarding. And I think also is just the feedback for it and the response has been great. And that's definitely one of the most rewarding things as well. I've had people from all over the world DM me on Instagram saying like, thank you so much for doing this. It's amazing. It means so much to me. And I love hearing about other people's stories. And so every time I upload a new story, I think about that and I'm like, I love getting this in return because it's showing me that I'm actually making a difference. I'm impacting people's lives. And it's a great feeling. It's the most rewarding thing I could get, better than payment.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad that that's happened.
And that's actually how Arjun and I met and
Yes.
started talking and kind of became friends. And I know, I mean, I've told you this a million times, but I've had people in my life who have told me to just say that this is an absolute amazing thing that you're doing that is really changing the way that people have seen food allergies. I have family members who are not exactly the most educated when it comes to food allergies, and just them reading everybody else's stories, including my own, it was kind of eye opening for them. And for that, I just have to say thank you so much for bringing so much um, awareness to everybody's different stories, because no story is the same.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me too, hearing that from you. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really amazing what you started. So, do you have any other plans to expand food allergy stories in the future?
Um, I mean, I would love to expand it as much as I can. Just keep reaching out to people, keep getting stories, and kind of keep spreading the word. Um, like a specific plan, I don't really have that. I am pretty busy now. I'm getting ready to go to college and stuff. But I mean, I definitely want to keep with it. It's not something I want to drop. It's had a big impact on my life, and seeing it have an impact on other people's lives has just made me want to do it more and more and more. And so I'm definitely going to continue it, and hopefully it'll continue expanding. I mean, we've experienced some really great success in just the past couple months since I started it. And so if I can keep expanding it to where I get thousands of followers, um, I'll just want to keep going.
Yeah, I definitely see that in your future because it's such an amazing account you made.
Oh,
Thank
definitely.
you.
So, if someone wanted to get involved with advocating for food allergies, what advice would you give them?
I think you guys can both speak on this as well, but I mean, I guess one of the main things is getting in contact with FAIR and the teen advisory group is a great way to do it, especially because it's kind of structured. And so, especially when you're first starting off, advocating for something on your own where you don't really know what you're doing is not easy. And so going through FAIR, I can say this like from firsthand experience, it's kind of given me a process in how to advocate. And it's given me the resources of so many other people who have food allergies and are around my age. And I've been able to leverage those resources, meet tons of incredible new people, and advocate for food allergies in an amazing way because FAIR has a huge impact. Aside from FAIR, honestly, the best advice I can give is just kind of go for it. Don't overthink things and don't feel down and out, I guess, if you don't experience a whole lot of success, because that's just a natural part of life. Like, you're not always going to experience like amazing success when you first start something, but if you consistently keep with it, turn out, I guess, quality content and just stick with it and don't stop, you're going to experience success at some point, even if it's small. For something like this, I think just that small success should be huge for you because you can tell yourself, like, I'm making a difference in this world.
For sure, yeah. And another piece of advice would be just you have to really feel like you want people to know about food allergies. Like you have to make sure you're coming from the right place. And as long as you are, just make sure you put in the effort, like Arjun said, and you'll get somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
And just don't give up on what you're doing. Kind of piggybacking off of what Arjun said, is not everything is going to be a success at first. And but what you have to keep in the back of your mind is every small win affects a greater cause. Um, you might not feel like you're doing much, but bringing the education and the awareness to food allergies is contributing to the big plan that we all have to have people um, start to understand a little bit more the everyday lives of people with food allergies.
Yeah, that was well said, Melody. It's kind of like that quote. I don't even know who said it, but I've heard it a lot. It's just like for the greater good. I think that applies to this just because, like, if you're doing it, just like Melody said, it's all for a greater cause. It's not to promote yourself, it's to promote what millions of Americans and people around the world suffer from. And so doing it for the greater good, even if you personally don't experience a ton of success, just know that, yeah, it's still making a difference.
Yeah, definitely. So, if there was one thing you wish people would know about food allergies generally towards the non-allergic population, what do you wish they would know?
Huh, that's a good question. I think I would want people to kind of fully understand and realize the true severity of food allergies. I think growing up has made me realize that many people, like I said before, don't really understand either what food allergies are or the true impact that they have on people. And so one of the things I always got when I said I was allergic to dairy is, oh, so you're lactose intolerant. And it's like, no, they're two very different things. I mean, both are like I can't have dairy, but lactose intolerance, I can usually take a pill and I'll be all right. With food allergies, I definitely cannot do that. It won't work. Um, and so people, especially because of like lactose intolerance, people tend to downplay the severity of food allergies because they haven't really experienced it firsthand, or they don't truly understand. Like, I guess take cancer for example. They're not really like analogous at all, but people understand the severity of cancer. And although food allergies aren't maybe at the level of cancer, it's still something that is life threatening in many circumstances and unfortunately has taken the lives of many people. But people don't realize that. They don't understand that because it's not as widespread or as almost commercialized as something like cancer is.
Right, definitely. Another thing is that most people don't realize that having food allergies doesn't just mean dietary restrictions. It restricts all different parts of your life, whether that be causing anxiety or social exclusion and like creating habits of like shyness and wanting to be an introvert. Um, it just impacts you in like all aspects of life, and it would be so helpful if like some people would just realize that, and hopefully through promoting food allergy education someday most people will understand that.
Another thing that people need to be aware of is we we might not be able to eat what everybody else can, but that doesn't make us in any way weaker or more fragile than other people. Um, I don't know about you guys, but I've gotten to that a lot. It's like because I can't eat dairy, it's like are your bones brittle, or did you just not grow as much as other people? And no, I've hit my full height without dairy. I am 5'9", and um, people need to realize is that just because we have food allergies, we're normal people as well. We're not um, some kind of alien creature.
Yeah,
Well, I
definitely.
wish I was 5'9", Melody, so you beat me there.
Yeah, so were the people that you guys grew up with, were they tolerant or knowledgeable about food allergies? I know you guys are both from California. Would you say like the people around you, like especially like at school, like were they aware of what food allergies were and like its implications?
I think we all have probably had a similar experience because we're all kind of later into our teenage years. But like I said before, when I first got diagnosed, people did not know a lot about food allergies, and the resources for food allergies were almost non-existent. Like my parents would scour the internet for hours and they barely found anything about what to do if your child has food allergies, how to handle them. And so that translated to just kind of everyday life and the classroom. Growing up, I was the person who had to tell my friends what it meant to have food allergies because they never knew. And so I'm lucky enough to have gone to a private school my whole life. So I've been with some of the same kids for the past like 12 years, which is a really long time. Thankfully, I haven't gotten sick of them, and I don't think they've gotten sick of me yet. Let's hope not. But they didn't really know a lot about them, and so it was more on me to educate them about what it was like and what that really meant. Thankfully, they were very receiving, and so were the teachers. But even that, like the teachers, they knew, but they didn't really know. They'd heard the term, but they never really knew the implications of someone having food allergies. And so my parents would have to explain it to the teachers, to the principals, and kind of all the adults, and then even to like my friends' parents if I ever went over to their house. They always had to explain what it was like to have food allergies, and oh, he can't eat that because you'll have to take him to the hospital and he could die. And so I was lucky enough to have people around me who are tolerant and understanding of what it's like. But growing up, it was definitely an experience having to explain it to so many people anytime I met someone new and my food allergies came up.
I think living in California has also been kind of helpful. Um, I am from the San Francisco area, and I mean, California's always been a state that has uh, done well, um, progressive. It's a progressive state, and but the thing is, like just like Arjun said, it's like back when I was a kid in the early 2000s, there was no way of figuring out like what a food allergy was. The internet didn't have anything, and but I've always had parents who um, have really worked to and help awareness and help me realize that it's not just me in this world with food allergies. So I've always had people, yeah. But just like any food allergic person, there's people who get it and people who don't, and people who eventually get it and people who never will.
Yeah, so kind of going off what Melody said. So, would you say, like, living in California, most people are food allergy conscious there? Because I know many states like differ in like that type of knowledge.
Um, Honestly, I've never really thought about food allergies like specifically to a state. I don't know about you guys, but I've never really moved. I moved like once when I was really young, but I moved like 10 minutes down the street or something. And so I've lived near Sacramento my whole life. I've been out of California, but not really long enough to experience kind of the implications of having food allergies in a different state and what it was like. But I think kind of how Melody said, maybe you realized it more than I have, but I think compared to other states, California is a progressive state. It has a huge population, and it's a very I don't know if it's political affiliation really plays a role, but there's a lot of people who are very, I guess, accepting and tolerant of people who are different. And that's not to say we're different, but in a way we are, because not many people have food allergies. And so living in California where people are more accepting of that, now, especially as I've gotten older, you'll find at places that food allergies are kind of taken care of at restaurants or at hotels, and they're very understanding of them now. And I think that being in California has definitely helped because of what Melody said, because California is a progressive state.
Yeah,
And the differences that we have are not a bad difference. It's really not a bad difference. I mean, who wants to be normal? Who wants to just have nothing going on with them? And I know food allergies have changed my life in a lot of positive ways. But a downside of living in California is because everybody has different mindsets. We have a lot of vegan and vegetarian and all that here. And allergies can frequently get really mixed up with that. And I think it was you, Arjun, that said that this severity doesn't always get noticed because everybody eats vegan food or gluten-free food or all of that here in California. People just assume that I'm vegan or just gluten-free. Nope. I have I have anaphylaxis, and Another thing is like because people don't eat eggs, it's like people think eggs are dairy, but that's a whole nother thing that we can talk about another day because it drives me insane.
The main inspiration from that question is that I'm from Florida, and like I would say people are moderately food allergy conscious here. But I traveled to New York like over 7 times, like as a child, because I have family there and I go to the Mount Sinai and Chaffee for food allergies. And I would say they're very like food allergy, like you guys said, progressive there, just because, they're accepting and like they're they just have lots of, I guess, food allergy resources there. So I would say that New York is also one of those states that are very accepting of food allergies.
Oh yeah,
That's
New York.
awesome to hear. I was just say that's awesome to hear. Like, and never being out of California, hearing that other states are very accepting and understanding of food allergies is very nice and very awesome.
Yeah, New York has always been a state that's been really good. Back in when I was growing up, I think it was about 5, so it might have been 2009, 2008, 2008, 2009. I can't do math. So I was there and, there were 12 restaurants on one street in New York City that I could eat at. And my family, they took a bite of my food because that's what they did when I was a kid. And they're like, no, this is dairy. She can't have that. But nope, it was never dairy. And there was like 12 restaurants on one street that I could eat at. And this was 2009. So New York's always been a super progressive state when it comes to food allergies.
Yeah. And another reason why I love New York, like for food allergies so much, is that for my allergies personally, like Italian food is almost always safe. And New York has tons of Italian restaurants. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, what's one type of like food cuisine that you can like usually rely on to accommodate your allergies?
So I'm Indian. Like my parents and like my grandparents and I trace our roots back to India. And so my mom and my like grandmothers are very, very good cooks. And so we eat Indian food quite a bit. And what I found is Indian food is actually pretty good with allergies. Although I might be biased because my mom cooks the Indian food a lot of the time, and she definitely knows that I have food allergies. But I think that that might be one cuisine that is pretty good with food allergies, um, aside from certain dishes. And I think the main reason I say that is because they don't use a whole lot of nuts in their food. And I think the cross contamination probability with nuts and just the fact that there's so many different ones that people with a nut allergy are allergic to, it definitely makes it difficult. And so not really using nuts in cooking or type of cuisine kind of takes a big factor out of it. And so it's much easier to trace dairy and eggs than dairy, eggs, and then all these different types of tree nuts and peanuts.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for my personal allergies, what is easiest for me are Japanese, Chinese, and Thai food. And I know those Thai food, especially, they do use a lot of nuts and there's a lot of sesame oil. So it's not ideal for um, a lot of people. But for my personal allergens, it's that's always been the safest bet for me because they don't use cheese. They yes, they use egg, but I already stated egg is not a dairy. uh, and they don't some dishes, yes, they do use butter. They also don't use a lot of gluten or wheat or beef because on top of having super severe with super severe dairy allergies sometimes comes with intolerances and just aversions to beef. I know as I've grown up, when I was a kid I could eat beef like there was no tomorrow, but as I've grown up, that intolerance to it has just gotten worse and worse and worse, and now I can't really eat it at all. So I find that those Japanese, Chinese, and Thai food has always been my safest bet.
Yeah, it's really funny how that works with like food allergies because I've never tried Indian food. I don't, maybe it would accommodate my allergies. I'll research that. That sounds really interesting. And then for Melody, for you, like all of those like other cuisine that you're talking about, like those are like my nightmare essentially because I'm allergic to like fish and sesame. So it's funny how like we're all like opposites in that area.
Yeah. Although Italian food is like so good. I love Italian food.
Yeah, I definitely like it.
Yeah, just like those foods, Dana, are the one my foods are your nightmare. Italian food's mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
because gluten.
Yep.
Yeah. Although you know what I found with Italian food, a lot of the times if you go to like a nice Italian restaurant and they make the pasta in-house, it almost always has egg in it. And so I've found that like sometimes a high-end Italian restaurant is maybe not the best place for me to go. But other than that, if you get like processed like pasta from the grocery store and you know how to make it, it's really good.
Yeah, it's really funny because I used to sometimes not like Italian food when I was little just because like I'm sensitive to eggs. I can't eat raw eggs, but I could like eat them baked and things. So I'd always be scared like because a lot of them would make in-house pasta like you said. But over time I've learned to like venture out and like learn that things that I know I can eat, I should, even though, sometimes there's always that fear factor. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I I don't know if you guys can like speak on this, but I think having food allergies has actually like increased my knowledge about food because there's a lot of like a lot of my allergens in foods that I didn't know that they were in there. Like I recently outgrew my dairy allergy and I didn't have ice cream right away, but I still don't eat ice cream because it's actually made with egg. Like vanilla ice cream has egg in it. I never knew that until I'm like, oh, maybe I can start trying it. But I still read the ingredients just because it's kind of like ingrained in me at this point. And I realized it had egg, and I was like, what? Why is there egg in vanilla ice cream? And so I think having food allergies and having to be conscious of what foods contain your allergens has actually helped me in a lot of ways because it's like, oh, like maybe some food that no one's ever heard of, I've had once, but I always remember it because it seems like something I could have, but it actually has peanuts in it or is
Yeah.
made with peanut oil. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that.
Yeah, I can talk to that with shampoo and different cosmetics. It's like you don't realize. Like I was using a an acne medication for a long time, and I realized my face was just starting to get like so red and peeling and all that jazz. And I couldn't figure out why, and it was itchy and itchy and itchy. And after like 3 weeks of using it, I got super visible like swelling and rashes on my face. And we dig into the ingredients, and there's like 5 things that contain dairy in them. I'm like, pardon? Why? It's like, why do you need to put dairy in, let's just say, like shampoo?
Yeah.
Why is that? What is the, I don't understand.
That's very true because okay, since quarantine started, I've grown out my hair, as I'm sure you guys can probably tell at this point. It's
It's
pretty long
lovely.
now. Thank you. But it's very long now. And so I've had to like to maintain my hair, I've had to start using like just so many different products. And I talked with my mom, she's like, "Oh no, you got to read everything." I'm like, "Why? It's just it's like shampoo and conditioner and stuff." She's like, "No, there's like your allergens could be in this." And so learning that in something that you don't even eat, even though our allergens are like edible food, it's just so surprising to me. Like, why do you need something like dairy or egg and shampoo or conditioner or something? I don't know. Just
Yeah,
weird.
I don't get it.
Yeah, definitely is odd. So, have you ever encountered like a situation where you like where you were exposed to your allergen because people didn't take your food allergies like seriously or they weren't like knowledgeable?
Sure. So I think I was in 5th grade, and there were a bunch of people that just didn't get it. They didn't get it, and they were the kind of people that were never going to get it. So I had stepped away from my lunch for a minute. Bad idea. um, I think to wash my hands or something, and I come back, and someone had poured a whole carton of dairy or milk into my lunch. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah. And I had many experiences like that. Three. I had 3 experiences like that when I was a kid. But that's kind of my surprise. There's an encounter with your allergen that you had no clue that's going to happen.
Oh my gosh, that's so terrible.
I know, I can't believe that. But for me, the kind of statistic I use a lot, just when I first meet someone, if they ask about my allergies, is I say I'm 17 now, and I've been to the ER because of my food allergies 6 times, and each one was life threatening. Like I had anaphylaxis each time, and so most of those times were just like there's not much, like it was cross contamination or it was just like mislabeled, anything like that, and there wasn't much I could do about it. But I think I had one time where it was a gelato place, I think near in like Midtown or downtown Sacramento. Um, and I went there and I'd been there before and I'd gotten their gelato and it's super good. And they always have like non-dairy flavors or like they're aware of allergens. And so I got it, and I ate it and I had a reaction to it. And so after I had gotten over my reaction, thankfully I got over it. My mom and I called the place and she said, "Oh, like I'm not held liable because I have a sign like in the front of my store that says I'm not liable for like cross contamination or something." And it's like she made the non-dairy or whatever kind of gelato it was on the same equipment that she had just made like pistachio gelato. And so I have like a kind of severe allergy to a lot of nuts. They're my most severe allergens. And so I think it's not really like melodies. I think melodies is worse because it was intentional. But I think that was the most kind of intentional exposure to my allergen. But I've had many experiences where it's just like great. There's nothing I could have done about it.
Yeah. I actually had a different experience when I was in kindergarten. I had a teacher who was not knowledgeable about food allergies. And I don't know who suggested this, but we did like a blind taste test. Like I was 5. I didn't know like anything, what was like going on around me. So they would blindfold everyone and put something in their mouth. You're supposed to guess what it was. And then, so I'm 5. And they put something in my mouth and it shaped like a Skittle. And I hear a girl named Lindsay next to me. She's just like, "Oh, M&Ms." And I'm just like, "What? I'm allergic to M&Ms." Like, thankfully, they were the ones without peanuts, but like they're still made like on shared equipment or in the same facility. I'm not sure, but they're still not safe. And I got so scared. But thankfully, everything was okay. But my teacher definitely did not know anything about food allergies.
That's
So that
that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like, why in the world? I have opinions on that.
But I think it's also because I mean, Dana, you're not like 10, 12. And so a
right.
while ago, like people didn't really know what food allergies were. And even still a lot of people don't. And so like a blind taste test wasn't an uncommon thing. Like people with food allergies don't come around that often. Unfortunately now we're on the rise, I guess. But I mean like back then it probably wasn't all that uncommon. But
Right.
that's a crazy story. That's insane. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're okay.
Thank you. I'm glad to. Okay.
Yeah.
So, why do you think so many like kids don't understand like the severity of food allergies like nowadays as well, even with the internet?
I think well, I don't know how helpful the internet is, especially for kids, because kids will believe anything that they read most of the time. And the internet is full of great information and also just false misinformation. And I also think it's because kids learn very quickly, but I don't think the way you kind of teach food allergies is something that kids are able to learn quickly. I think something like math or reading or something like that, kids can pick up quicker. But food allergies are more conceptual, and I think it takes more real world experience to truly understand the severity of food allergies. But I think it's also because kids are just kind of more blunt, and so they'll just ask and say anything, and they don't really have a filter for it. Um, and so I think kind of, especially young kids, getting them to really understand is difficult because they'll just ask a lot of really funny questions, but ultimately, most of the time, questions that don't help them understand, which kind of goes back to the real world experience thing. And so I think that food allergies aren't taught in schools. And so as you grow up, you're not exposed to them at all if you don't have them, or if you don't have friends or family who have food allergies. And so I think that definitely plays a role in it. I think also just like learning about food allergies when you're that young isn't easy. So I think that might be why.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, with kids, it's like you really even now I'm like 17, I'm gonna be 18 next year, and it's like you don't people don't realize, and they don't um people don't get it unless they know somebody who has them. I mean, even then, you're never gonna get it unless you live it. But I think for kids especially, knowing somebody with food allergies helps them with their further their understanding of food allergies. It's my brother growing up with me. He's 3 years younger than me, so he actually fully under not fully, you can never fully understand, but he has a good handle on understanding because I'm his sister. He's seen things that normal kids, not normal kids, kids that don't have food allergies don't typically see. So I think unless you know somebody, it's really hard for a kid to want to learn more.
Right. So what steps do you guys think should be like taken to like make more kids aware of like the severity of food allergies?
I think kind of how I mentioned how cancer is commercialized, where we have like Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I think because so many I think especially like professional sports teams, like the NFL, MLB, all that, they and like the NBA, they endorse Breast Cancer Awareness Month. They'll wear like pink socks and put the pink ribbon on their jerseys and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that has really raised awareness for cancer as a whole. And while there is a food allergy awareness month, it's definitely not as widespread or as commercialized as something like breast cancer awareness month is. And so I think kind of pushing food allergy awareness month to the level of something like that would definitely help, just because people would be saying the name so much more, and it'll kind of pique people's curiosity about like, well, what is that? And they'll do research. And then I think overall it'll just increase people's knowledge about food allergies. And I think also teaching it more in school, because going through school, I'm a rising senior now. We've never once talked about food allergies for more than like 5 minutes. And even then, it was in like my high school biology class. Other than that, that's it. Like, where else can you find education about food allergies if you don't even learn it in school, right?
Yeah, I definitely think increasing like education, like whether it be in health class, science class, or, read an article about it in English, anything like that, incorporating it into the curriculum would definitely increase awareness among kids.
Yeah, and we're all high schoolers. I'm a rising
Yeah.
senior as well, and it's like we all probably did. We all take health class. I know I took health class,
Yeah,
and
I didn't have health class.
I had it as like an elective when I was in elementary school.
yeah, it's like a lot of high school teaches at elementary and high school. Well, middle and high school teach health class, and I think there are so many different units in a health class. Why not add food allergies to one of them? Add a unit on food allergies. I mean, it's a health class. Like it covers a million different topics. I think adding that to a curriculum of a health class could be really useful to bring into more high school and middle school minds, get them to think about it. I know I did that. What year did I take? I took health class my sophomore year. And as I said, I'm going to be a senior. We did talk about food allergies, and it really did help a lot of my classmates who didn't really understand to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and us, Melody, as well.
Yeah, and Arjun, thank you so much for coming.
Of course. It was great talking to you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to support Arjun's mission in spreading food allergy stories, you can follow him at Food Allergy Stories on Instagram. And if you want to follow Just Allergy Things, we are at Just Allergy Things on Instagram, and check out the Just Allergy Things magazine on justallergythings.com. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, bye!